Hello and welcome to this edition of Diary of a Common Man. My name is Salim Lalani. I hope you are well. Firstly, my apologies. My videos have been regularly and irregular in recent days, but there are reasons for that. There are personal reasons, and there are reasons which are related to my campaign, which I'm not ready yet to share with you. But what I am ready to share with you is an incident that happened on last Chandrat. It may be insignificant, but it'll give you some perspective around how Ismailis are on the defensive. But in this video, we will also cover humanity and agakhanism. Let's begin with the incident. The way it happened is that, just like every Chandrat, I regularly go to Jamaat Khana, but obviously not to pray, but to protest. So I was there in Sydney Jamaat Khana, outside the Sydney Jamaat Khana rather, and as usual, I had a poster for people to read on the way into the Jamaat Khana. And this time it was this particular poster. So I have been doing this, different messages for the Jamaat in case their eyes open. I've been doing it for about a year or so now, and it has made an impact, which we don't want to talk about today. But one thing that happens when you have posters like that outside the Jamaat Khana, it impacts the minds and the thoughts of the murids that are about to go in Jamaat Khana and pray to their Mawla. Mawla who is portrayed in a completely different light. Now there is a conflict in their minds. If there is no conflict, then obviously they may conclude that, look, Salim is just an idiot, he has gone crazy, and what can we do about it? Leave him alone. But younger people in particular, I'm not saying elderly people or middle-aged people are not being impacted. In fact, in this particular incident, I will show you how they are impacted. So, usually what happens is when I stick the poster at the back of my car, I go and sit in my car peacefully and listen to some music, sit there for 1 hour and then go home. But this particular Chandrat, it was very windy. And my poster, which was stuck with a blue tack, the wind was too strong for the blue tack, and it would basically keep threatening to blow it away. So I had no choice but to hold on to the poster whilst people were walking into the Jamaat Khana. Now that gave me an opportunity to watch their reactions, the facial expressions when they pass by the poster. Most of them, in fact all of them except one, they would pretend not to look at it, although 100% looked at it. You can't miss it. It's too bright and too big to miss it. So everybody would pretend, oh, we're not looking at it, we're just going in and we are as strong as ever. But one person, he passed by me and he had his gaze on the ground when he passed by me, and he whispered. The whisper was audible enough so that I could hear it. Remember, his gaze is on the ground. He's not making an eye contact with me. I am looking at everyone that is passing by. He cannot establish an eye contact. But he said, you should be ashamed of yourself. But look at the irony. His gaze is on the ground. Who is ashamed? Who is ashamed? You can't even establish an eye contact with me and you tell me that I should be ashamed when you are ashamed, and you should be. So I reacted. A little bit, it was an overreaction, but I reacted anyway. The benefit of the hindsight, I feel that reaction was very appropriate, but appropriate in the sense that it was required. My tone of the voice was not appropriate, and that has been a problem with me for quite a while now, and I'm seeking help in relation to that as to how to appropriately react in a physical kind of a situation, in a real kind of a situation. Okay, it is a weakness in me, and I admit to it, and I'm working on it. And as I said earlier, I apologize for the tone of my voice. But what I said was 100% on the dot. So I said to him, and he basically, after making that comment, he hurriedly tried to walk away. It was like throwing a bomb at somebody and just run away as soon as you can. He did that, and I wouldn't allow that. I wouldn't allow that. That is not me. So I followed him, and I said, hang on, stand here, excuse me. You made a comment, and I need to give you my response. Who is ashamed? Me? Who is standing here all alone against the entire system, making awareness, creating awareness, speaking the truth, willing to look into your eyes? Should I be ashamed? Or should you be ashamed for worshipping a man who is a convicted adulterer? Tell me. No answer. He found himself in deep trouble, and he should. That is how, see, the situation is that in our Gujarati language, we used to have a saying which said, a bone of the fish is stuck into your throat. You can't spit it out or cough it out, nor can you swallow it. Ismailis have found themselves in this situation. They will have to face the truth. If they don't, at least until my lifetime, I am going to bombard them with the truth until it registers. And it has registered. It has registered, for which, once again, I thank all the Ismailis who are not paying money anymore. in the Jamaat Khana. Thank you so much. Anyway, let's move on to our topic today. Humanity and AgaKhanism. Aga Khan, particularly Aga Khan IV, was internationally known, amongst other things, as a humanitarian. Somebody who cares for humanity. Somebody who dedicates his life for humanity. Somebody who spends out of his pocket for humanity. That is a humanitarian. But today, I want to show you the real face of humanity in Aga Khan's system. Is he a humanitarian? Or was he a humanitarian? Or was he a fraudster? Or was he a charlatan? Or was he a con man? I will leave this with my audience to decide. But let's begin this story about humanity. And in this humanity, how does Aga Khan's system practice today in 21st century, in 2025? How do they practice an ancient custom of ostracism, of excluding a human being out of your system, your society, your life, for no fault of theirs? That is ostracism. It is inhuman. Let's begin. Although ostracism started in Europe, but from the Indian context, let's talk about it, because Indian context is important, because AgaKhanism borrowed ostracism, excommunication. Dalit is an untouchable. It is a sin. If you were to touch, you would accumulate a sin if you were to mistakenly touch a human being. Or if they should touch you, you become unclean. You don't touch them. Just like you don't touch rubbish. Human beings were categorized as a Dalit, as an untouchable. That is the negative side of Hinduism, but there is a big but here. This ancient practice in the modern age, particularly in the 18th to 19th century, there were a few people who stood up. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, particularly in the 19th century, early 19th century. Jyotiba Phule, and later Mahatma Gandhi. And the person who really stood up to the Dalit issue, or Dalit inhumanity, was Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar was a Dalit himself, but a highly educated man, highly intelligent man, highly brave man. He actually burned a Hindu scripture called Manusmriti, which unfortunately had pretty inhuman ideas. And I take my hat off to the Hindus. I do. They did not revolt. They accepted it. These are not ancient times. These are not dark ages to practice inhumanity. No. These are modern times. These are times when we value humanity. Not pretend humanity like someone does. Value and practice humanity. In fact, in 1948, if I'm not wrong, United Nations General Assembly, they documented a Charter of Rights. Charter of Basic Human Rights. But remember, the Hindus had taken steps to eradicate, exterminate the inhuman practice in Hindu society beginning 17th to 18th century, way before the 20th century. But the world woke up to the issues in the world, not only in India, but around the world. They came together. They came together and drafted and documented and implemented a Charter of Basic Human Rights. And it said everybody has a right to live with dignity. Everyone, every human being, everyone, and we should all practice inclusivity, not exclusion. Not exclusion. That was Dr. Ambedkar, Mahatma Gandhi, Jyotiba Phule, and Dr. Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And of course, the members of the United Nations back in 1948. I don't know who they were, but they did it. Did AgaKhan subscribe to that Charter of Basic Human Rights? He was the president of the League of Nations, not United Nations, which was a failure. But AgaKhan was alive in 1948. Did he subscribe to the idea or the document called Charter of Human Rights, or did he not? Did he subscribe to inclusion, or did he practice exclusion in his Jamaat Khanas? You know the answer. He practiced exclusion. Anybody that speaks against him or the system would be excommunicated and ostracized. Nobody would deal with you. Nobody would buy from your shop. Nobody would give their children's hand in your children's hands. No matrimonials. No social engagement. You would be left to die alone. That is Sultama Masha. In Gujarati, we call it Nath Bahar, out of the community. On one hand, on the world stage, just imagine, on one hand on the world stage, the world is coming together out of the dark ages into the light of inclusivity, and Sultan Muhammad Shah walks away into the darkness. Does Karim Hazar Imam, not Hazar Imam anymore, did Karim AgaKhan make any changes? Oh yes, he did. Oh yes, he did. You know what change did he make? Do you want me to tell you? Massive change. Sultan Muhammad Shah would practice exclusion himself. Karim Hazar Imam was such a nice man. He would not personally order somebody out of the community. No, he wouldn't do that. But he delegated the same work to his stooges. He did not remove exclusion, excommunication, ostracism, the inhuman practice, ancient practice. And guess what? This is the best part. I love this part. When Sultan Muhammad Shah died, he wanted an educated man who understood science. Educated man to take over as the Imam of the time. This was the educated man who would allow human exclusion in his Jamaat Khana. Educated man. How am I qualified to talk about exclusion during the time of AgaKhan IV, Karim AgaKhan? What gives me the qualification? I had the qualification. I am the man who was ostracized. The inhumanity with which I was dealt with, I'll talk about it now. The day my episode appeared, first episode appeared on YouTube in January 2021, on that day, all my friends, all the members of the community, and my family members, everyone disconnected with me, as if I was a carrier of leprosy, exactly like the Dalits in the ancient times, exactly like the Dalit. I could not be touched. If anybody was found talking to me, they would be in trouble themselves. This happened in 2021. Deep into the modern age, deep into the internet age, yes, on that day, I was all alone. The only person that was with me was my wife. The poor thing. On one hand, she had a marriage, a happy marriage of 42 years. On the other hand, she had the entire community. She was not religious. She never was. She knew deep down that agakhanism is a scam. She knew it. But the community was very important for her. In fact, too important. But, but not only it was a question of community, it was now a question of her own grandchildren. Because on the other side of the fence, on this side of the fence, you have your husband who is a rebel. Everybody has excluded him from their lives, expelled him from their lives. But including those who have expelled him includes his own children. So on the other side of the fence, not only does this lady have the entire community on the other side, but her own children and then her own grandchildren. What would she do? What would she do? What would you do? On one hand, you have a madman rebelling against a system who is all alone in this world. And on the other hand, you have your entire world, your community, your friends, your children, your grandchildren, you have everything there. Which one would you pick? Would you live with your husband? She did. For the next 3 years. She put up with it. She was torn between two sides. What would she do? In 2024, the pressure became too much. By that time, 2 grandchildren were born between 21 and 24. And I allowed her to go and see them. I was not allowed. And she saw them. But then the pressure became too much. In fact, Karim Sumar, I may have spoken about this, Karim Sumar, the president of the council at that time, suggested to Shehnaz that she should leave me because my son he was capable of looking after her. Okay. At that time, she did not take that advice, but in 2024 July, the pressure became too much from the other side and she left me. My only lifeline was my wife. It is now a year and a half. I'm completely alone. But I'm not alone. As I wrote in my book, I have a mission to complete. I have my conscience and I have my best friend in the world. You know who the best friends are? They say dogs are a man's best friend. I have a dog, Bella. This is Bella, by the way, my best friend, my most loyal friend. Anyway, this gives me the qualification to talk about inhuman practice of ostracism in Ismaili system in 2025. I will close this episode with one statement. which literally, this incident, it literally tore me apart. I've been through extreme mental trauma since I was ostracized. It's not easy. I hope and pray that no human being should be subjected to this. Although, as I said, I have been through extreme mental trauma, but leaving my wife leaving me in July 24, it took the trauma to another level. And last week, ladies and gentlemen, I got a phone call that I have another grandchild, a granddaughter. And the call came from a friend of mine who is still a member of the Jamaat Khana. That is all for today. Look after yourself. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.